Washington police chased a runaway pig labeled as notorious PIG. This is very fun because you get to watch pigs chasing pigs. I just like the idea of this little oinker getting away, having multiple squad cars have to show up, chase this little guy around. They have such a hard time. He's such a slippery little pig. It's so cute. This was my fun. I really enjoyed this little news story this morning. I got a good laugh out of it. They do corner him though. They do get the pig. The pigs get the pig. He's bacon all around. But they're nice to him. They're not giving him a hard time. Honestly, treating him better than most people that the police catch. They're gentle. They give him a nice caress. They bring him gently into the car. Can you imagine if they treated humans like this? My God, there'd be an uproar. Absolute uproar. The Video Game Awards have been announced. The nominees. I hate the Video Game Awards. I have watched every one of them and regretted it every single time. And I still will probably watch this one as well. The nominations are disgusting. They're really bad for the most part. Balatro is up for Game of the Year, which is really exciting though. And I very, very much hope it wins it because it's up against things like the DLC for Elden Ring, which I don't know why it's there in the first place. I'm pretty done with Jeff Keighley at this point as well. I think in general, I think he's been a pretty negative thing on the industry in the last number of years. And it's starting to feel like he's holding on and refusing to let go because he doesn't want to get rid of his legacy. He's not ready. But it feels like if he moved over and let somebody else move up, it would probably be for the benefit of everybody. This cracked me up because anybody who owns a Switch knows that the Switch eShop is probably the worst run marketplace in existence. There's literally a producing company called Red Deer Games, which I believe is out of Alberta. And they just rebundle all of their games every single day and make new bundles and make new price differences and stuff like that so that they stay on the entire new releases every single day as just games published by Red Deer Games. And then there is an insane amount of hentai puzzle games on the Switch eShop. It's absolutely absurd, I gotta tell you. Hard drive's hit rate is absolutely nuts. It's crazy. This one gut busted me when I heard it. I burst out laughing. Game Awards when half the jury isn't even connected to the games industry. I mean, like, do you remember last year's Game Awards? It was literally just about bringing as many celebrities on stage as possible. There was almost zero focus on the games. There was 20 minutes given to Hideo Kojima to just ramble about the insane project that he's working on. That looks terrible. And I will say, I think he is probably the most overrated developer in the games industry. I don't think any of his games are very good. And that includes the Metal Gear series. I think is extremely overhyped. This is my video game opinion that got you looking like this. And it's the prince from Tangled with all the swords pointing at him. I think that Metal Gear is actually a terribly written series with mediocre gameplay. And I think most of the reason that everybody likes it is because they want to seem like they understand it and feel smarter than they are. It's the same reason everybody liked Donnie Darko growing up. Nobody knew what the hell it was about. Nobody understood it. But everyone who was an insufferable movie snob was like, Donnie Darko's the best movie ever. It's so deep. You just don't get it. And it's like, no, we get it. It's not good. It's not very good. We all get it. People who read Ulysses. Yes, exactly. Norath, yes, that's exactly it. People who read Greek classics and are like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever read. And to everyone else, it's like, no, this is unreadable in modern times. It's not that good. It's actually filled with a lot of garbage in there. I read The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I could tell you, it's a good story, but it's also not good. It's got interesting characters, but the way that the book, like, it's an insufferable read. Oh, this was just a funny, and one last funny story. Some teacher at some school somewhere, I don't know, had to create a list of banned words that her students were no longer allowed to say, or I guess also things to do, maybe. I think just banned words, but it is very funny to me thinking of a teacher trying to say you can no longer use any slang. Any of your generation's slang is no longer allowed to be used in the classroom. And also just that some of the words are Taylor Swift. My favorite out of this entire list, which I'm not even entirely certain what it is, but Darius noises. Now I assume it's got to be Darius from League of Legends, but I don't know what the noise he makes and how the noise is so iconic enough that it is number 17 on the banned words list. But it is very funny to me to think that kids are just, it's the equivalent of somebody, to me, just making link noises, just going, yep, yep, yeah, yeah, yep. And I imagine that must be what kids are doing all the time. Just banning Ohio. Yeah, Ohio's not allowed to be talked about in school anymore. Geography's gonna be screwed. It's okay. Ohio doesn't actually exist. It's not a real state. It's a gap in the map. It's where the map ends. I don't even know these words, but I hate them already. I like to think I'm pretty up on Gen Alpha slang and memes. There's a few in here I don't know. There's I think quite a few of it in here. Like, I don't know what feign is. I don't know what the cardiac arrest meme is, unless that's just being like, ooh, that's so cringe. I don't know why pumpkin is banned. Also animal noises. Also huzz. Honestly, most of the end of this list, which leads me to believe if these are established brain rot terms, which they mostly are, these must be the new memes, the hot ticket items that if you really want to be up, on all the slang, these are the ones you got to learn. Number 7 is wild. Wild. Why is it only Emma? I know. I want the story. It's got to be a school. Yeah, I think it's a school. There's no explanation for any of it in the comments. I went through, I tried to figure stuff out. Couldn't find an answer anywhere. Not a clue. Not a clue. Speaking of Eldritch horrors, Menace from the Deep, a roguelike deck building card game that unfolds in a dark world. Drawing inspiration from Howard Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos. Who calls him Howard Lovecraft? I feel like that's the developers being like, oh yes, me and Howard, we go way back. Yes, we love Howard's work. And everyone around them is like, who? Who is Howard? Who are you talking about? Oh, Howard Lovecraft? You've never heard of him? You've never heard of Lovecraft? My good friend Howard? It's a very weird take. Thought his first name was Harry? Harry Patrick? Oh, look, another deck building card game, this time with a horror skin. This is my reaction to card games he sees. I'm the exact same. Honestly, I barely even paid attention to this trailer just because I could not be less interested. Congratulations, you made Slay the Spire again. It looks like it's got some cool monsters, but I just hate Slay the Spire clones so badly. It's like the most overdone genre right now. Literally no one ever breaks the name up. It's always initials, yeah. Harry Patrick is his actual name, but he shortened it. Calling Lovecraft Howard feels a bit like calling a wrestler by their real name. Yeah, it makes you look like a certain kind of person. Exactly. Like, I want to buy this game just so I can write a review to say, who calls him Howard Lovecraft? Get over yourselves. Howard Phillip is his name. Oh, okay. Slay the Spire wasn't inspired by Howard? Me and my buddy Howard. You know, we go back. We go way back. Have you guys ever seen Mark Calloway in the ring? Oof, crazy. So much showmanship. You're playing this, it's good. Is it? Or is it not as good as Slay the Spire? On a scale of 1 to Slay the Spire, how is it? Give me your honest opinion. On a scale of Darkest Dungeon to Slay the Spire, how does it hold up? Not a fan of Darkest Dungeon. I'm learning things. No, I like Darkest Dungeon, but I don't like how many games are trying to be Darkest Dungeon. It's the same thing with Slay the Spire. Like, both of those games were standouts. They were variations of each other, but in standout different ways. And most games just try to take elements from both of them, not do either of them as well, and then don't really do anything else to stand out on top of it. Like Norland, it's different enough that you would play it instead of just downloading a fantasy RimWorld mod. Yeah, okay, so that's a great example. Yeah, I think Norland is a good example of something that takes RimWorld mechanics and is a very RimWorld-like game, but then adds in a bunch of other elements. They, in fact, add in a bunch of Crusader Kings style elements. So they're still doing the thing where they take from multiple games that already exist, but in a mashup that hasn't traditionally been done. And then they also keep things a little bit different in the sense that you're not building wall by wall, floor by floor. You're building building by building. So you place a full house instead of a bed and then the walls and then the flooring and then everything else, right? Against the Storm crushes other city builders for you due to its roguelike elements. Absolutely. So Against the Storm took, they said, okay, we have a city builder. It's not the most complicated. It's got a few unique aspects in it in regards to the way the storm mechanic works. But then they introduced roguelike into the city builder genre. And I know there's a couple other games that have done roguelike city builders, though not really to much notoriety or success. Against the Storm certainly took the spotlight with that, because they did it so well. So there's a game that has really stood out because they mechanically did something different. The gimmick of, oh, you have to survive a disaster every year isn't quite so bad, but the roguelike elements are very, very interesting, very, very different. And we'll probably see some Against the Storm lights in the coming years. We'll probably see more roguelike city builders now that people realize that that is something that can be done. Like to propose the thesis, all games could be improved by the addition of some choice Crusader Kings mechanics. Generally, yeah, I'd agree with that. Old World, the other way around. They added Crusader Kings to Civ and it caused so much cognitive overload you couldn't enjoy it. Right. So, I mean, Millennia and Era both added Anno elements to Anno production chains into Civ, and they were too much. And they overloaded everybody who played it. Now, Era has gone and done a couple of quality of lives to try and improve that, and we'll have to see how that all works out. I'm very eager to try them out, but yeah, I've been more and more, I've been trying to stop myself from playing early access games, because getting to the point that you catch up with all the content and then realizing, oh, I got to go back and I got to redo all this again, and I'm going to want to do it, but I'm just more and more craving. I like picking up early access games and then playing them for just a little bit, going, okay, cool. Now I know whether or not I want to play this when it comes out fully. To me, it's almost like all early access games should just be demos. They should just be 4-hour demos that let you play as much of the game as you want for 4 hours, or whatever the Steam refund period is. That's what they should do. That would be smart. What if instead of Steam refunds, they just made it that you can play any game on your Steam list for 2 hours? Any game on Steam you could play for 2 hours for free. Full content, as much as you want, for 2 hours. And then at 2 hours, they say you got to buy it or you got to get the hell out of here. I'd do that. Either that or treat it like the old arcade machines at places like Toys R Us, where every hour the game would reset. When I was a kid, this is a true story. This is a true, arguably kind of sad story, but I always found it really fun. When I was a kid, my mom was working at a location that was right next to Toys R Us, and I have very fond memories of my childhood. I'm in grade 5, maybe grade 6. Where we didn't have a babysitter, so my mom she'd have to go into these meetings at this place that were an hour or 2 hours long. And so she would just drop me off at Toys R Us and just say, I'm gonna come get you in 2 hours. Just go wander around Toys R Us. It's huge. For those of you who don't know, Toys R Us is like a massive toy store. And I very distinctly remember this because they had a video game section. And in the video game section, they had those machines that reset after you played them for an hour. So I would go and I would play Star Fox 64 on these machines, and I would speed run Star Fox 64 to try and beat it within the 1 hour window before the game console reset. And I got so good at Star Fox 64, to the point that I was getting to the last boss or beating the last boss. I think just getting to him. I don't know if you can speed run it. I gotta look up now. Memory is a funny thing when we look back. You can beat it in 22 minutes, 22 and a half minutes. So I must have been beating it at that age because I was playing it so much, waiting for my mom to come out of these meetings. I loved it. I loved those machines. I loved Star Fox.